Hey Focus learners, and welcome to this explainer. Today, we're taking a highly structured, totally visual journey through some of history's absolute most astounding accidental discoveries. We're going to be exploring that incredible motif of human exploration, the act of looking for one perfectly normal thing, but stumbling upon something completely unexpected that just challenges everything we thought we knew.
Okay, let's dive into this. Here is the roadmap for our explainer today. First, sunken relics and submerged cities. Then, mythical beasts made real. Third, perils hidden beneath Earth. Fourth, modern warfare's buried secrets. And finally, number 5, cursed rings and ancient emperors. Section 1. Sunken relics and submerged cities. The ocean floor really loves to blur the line between ancient civilizations and natural phenomena.
So picture this, it's 2007, and an underwater archaeologist named Dr. Mark Hawley is out using sonar in Lake Michigan. He was just looking for a shipwreck, but instead, his sonar pinged a perfectly straight, mile-long line of boulders leading right to a circle of stones. Naturally, the media quickly dubbed it a mini Stonehenge, but it turns out, as anthropologists later discovered in nearby Lake Huron, this was actually a brilliantly engineered 10,000-year-old hunting trap. These structures are called drive lines. Native hunters realized that caribou instinctively follow linear structures, right? So they built these underwater rock walls to herd the animals right to a steep drop-off where they could be easily hunted. 3,300 years. That is a massive amount of time. In 2023, a British company called Energene was just scanning the Mediterranean seafloor for oil and gas, a full 55 miles off the coast of Israel. A mile deep, their robotic vehicle spotted hundreds of ancient urns just piled on top of each other. They accidentally discovered a 3,300-year-old shipwreck. This is literally the world's oldest shipwreck ever discovered in deep water. It completely revolutionizes our understanding of ancient mariners, proving for a fact that whoever sailed this ship could navigate the brutal open ocean using just the sun and stars with absolutely no land in sight.
Now, sometimes these underwater anomalies spark massive debates. Back in 1986, a diver off the coast of Japan's Yonaguni Island was looking for hammerhead sharks. At just 15 feet underwater, he bumped into this massive, 80-foot-tall stepped pyramid structure with perfect right angles. So what is it? Well, on one hand, marine geologist Masaaki Kimura believes this is the mythical lost kingdom of Mu, sunk by a tsunami. Some researchers in 2024 even proposed it was built by intelligent non-human beings hiding on Earth, so-called cryptoterrestrials. Meanwhile, others in the scientific community argue it is simply natural sandstone breaking along tectonic fault lines. As an explainer, we aren't taking any sides here, we're simply laying out the competing views for you. Until further excavations happen, the true origin of the Yonaguni Monument remains fiercely debated.
Section 2. Mythical beasts made real. It's always fascinating to see the friction between what humans mythologize and what science actually ends up proving. Imagine walking down a beach in a small Danish village right at dawn, and you find a massive, stinking carcass. It's just this amorphous blob. It has 2 giant cloudy eyes, a bony, bird-like beak, and 10 long arms, completely covered in hooked, sharp teeth. To the terrified villagers who found it, this wasn't just any sea monster. This was the legendary Kraken. The multi-armed beast famous for smashing boats to pieces and dragging sailors to a watery grave. Someone chopped off the beak as a souvenir, and the rest of it was hastily buried.
And this brilliantly illustrates how myths evolve into science. 3 years later, that beak was gifted to a Norwegian scientist named Japetus Steenstrup. He looked at it and realized the beak looked exactly like a common squid's beak, just massive. Steenstrup declared he had discovered a totally new genus, Archaeoteuthis, the giant squid. Then, in 1873 over in Newfoundland, fishermen literally fought off a live one with an axe, bringing back a 19-foot tentacle. The Kraken myth was finally brought out of legend and right into the realm of biological reality.
But sometimes it's not a monster we find, but a ghost. In 1938, a museum curator named Marjorie Courtney Latimer was digging through a commercial fisherman's slimy catch in South Africa. She accidentally uncovered a bright blue fish with 4 fins that kind of looked like arms. The fish expert she needed was away, and the fish was rapidly rotting and turning gray, so she scrambled to call a taxidermist. Thank goodness she did. 8 weeks later, it was identified as a coelacanth. That's a species thought to have died out 65 million years ago alongside the dinosaurs. It is the zoological find of the century. And the truly crazy part? If Marjorie hadn't intervened right then, this 65-million-year-old species could have literally been someone's Christmas dinner.
Look at this number, 40,000.
8,000. Over in Siberia, an ivory hunter named Pavel Efimov was trudging through the ice just looking for mammoth tusks. He saw a clump of fur, dug down, and instead found a giant, severed animal head. At first glance, it looked like a wolf, but the skull was 16 inches long. That is much larger than any modern wolf. Scientists carbon dated it and realized it was a perfectly preserved, fully grown Pleistocene wolf from 40,000 years ago. It was far larger and deadlier than we ever previously thought possible.
Section 3. Perils hidden beneath Earth. Let's look at the underground forces that have shaped and, frankly, could destroy human existence. So, back in 1965, NASA needed to test state-of-the-art satellite cameras, so they used Yellowstone National Park as a control test. The geologist in charge, Bob Christensen, had to collect ground rocks to verify the satellite data. But he kept finding rhyolite, which is a rock only formed by flowing lava. But wait, Yellowstone had no active volcanoes. Well, when the infrared mapping finished in 1972, the horrifying truth was revealed. Yellowstone's geology wasn't formed by a chain of dead volcanoes. The entire park is sitting on top of a single, massive supervolcano. It erupted 2 million years ago with an explosion 2,500 times bigger than Mount St. Helens. So the crucial point is, scientists in 2022 discovered its lava chambers are rapidly filling up again today. A routine camera test uncovered a literal ticking time bomb.
Other underground discoveries are tragic in their extreme fragility. In 1985, a diver named Henri Kosker swam up an underwater tunnel in France and accidentally found a massive, completely dry cave. Inside were over 500 ancient paintings of horses, penguins, and jellyfish. The oldest images date back an astonishing 27,000 years. Most fascinating to researchers are the mutilated hand stencils, missing fingers, which scientists believe might actually be the oldest known example of a written visual code, predating other written language by 20,000 years. But here is why this matters right now. Researchers believe rising sea levels have already destroyed 4/5 of the art in that cave, and what remains could be completely washed away within the next 14 years. Section 4. Modern Warfare's Buried Secrets. Let's jump into the 20th century to see how global conflicts left behind incredible secrets hidden right beneath our feet.
Picture this. You're a diver for the World Wildlife Fund in Germany's Gelting Bay. You've been sent down simply to retrieve a missing fishing net. You see it snagged on a barnacle-covered rock with little white specks on it. You pull it up thinking, oh, it's just an old typewriter, but it's not. What you've just accidentally salvaged from the mud is a fully intact Nazi M3 Enigma cipher machine. Cracking this exact type of machine ended the Second World War a year early. It ended up at the bottom of the bay in May 1945, during Operation Rainbow, when the fleeing German High Command deliberately scuttled their own U-boats to keep these incredible secrets out of Allied hands.
These modern secrets just pop up when we least expect them. For instance, in an English forest, a man named Kit Rogers is just out cutting down trees, opens an iron door, and finds an abandoned bunker. It turns out to be one of 500 secret bunkers built for Winston Churchill's clandestine suicide mission civilian army to fight a Nazi invasion. We already discussed the Enigma machine in Gelting Bay, but consider East Berlin in 1956. Workers are digging in the freezing rain to fix a faulty phone cable. Instead, they hit concrete and uncover a high-tech CIA wiretap tunnel. An accidental discovery? Actually, scratch that. It wasn't an accident at all. It was a brilliant Cold War chess move. The Soviets had a double agent, George Blake, who had already told them about the tunnel. To protect his identity while simultaneously publicly humiliating the West, the Soviets manufactured the faulty cable story so the workers would quote-unquote accidentally find the tunnel. A completely staged accident.
Section 5. Cursed Rings and Ancient Emperors. For our final section, let's explore that blurry line where archaeological fact meets ancient magic.
Back in 1974, a sleepy village in northwest China was suffering from a severe drought. A farmer named Yang Jifa was desperately just trying to dig a well for water. 15 feet down, his shovel hit a clay head. Over the following months, archaeologists would flock to this site and ultimately unearth an astonishing 8,000 life-sized, incredibly detailed terracotta warrior statues, armed with real bronze weapons. They had been carved and buried 2,000 years ago to protect China's first emperor, Qin Shi Huang, in the afterlife. But local villagers had warned that disturbing the ancestors would bring terrible misfortune, and heartbreakingly, it really did. Digging up the emperor's army allegedly unleashed a dark curse. The government stepped in and evicted all the residents to build a massive museum. The villagers lost their land, their homes, and their livelihoods.
The actual men who found the statues sank into extreme poverty, suffering from strange diseases, and one even tragically hung himself in 1997 because he couldn't afford medicine. The grand scientific triumph of the museum completely erased and ruined the lives of the people who originally found it.
And curses aren't just a byproduct of archaeology. Sometimes they are the artifact itself. Let's define a crucial term here: a defixio. It's a cursed tablet, common in ancient religions, specifically used to demand divine vengeance against someone who wronged you. In 1805, a wealthy family in England was renovating their garden when they accidentally hit a stone wall. They unearthed a lost Roman temple dedicated to the Celtic healing god Nodens, and inside they found a lead defixio.
Now, what's really interesting to look at here is how this 150-year-old puzzle was solved. Check this out. In 1785, a farmer finds a giant gold ring inscribed with the name Sinitianus. 20 years later, in 1805, that temple is found 80 miles away with a curse tablet. Over a century passes. Then, in 1928, the brilliant archaeologist Sir Mortimer Wheeler examines both artifacts. He realized that the Temple of Nodens was basically an ancient hospital. He deduced that a sick pilgrim named Silvianus had his gold ring stolen there by a man named Sinitianus.
Silvianus was furious, right? So he went and had this exact curse carved on a lead tablet. For the god Nodens, Silvianus has lost a ring. Do not allow the thief Sinitianus any good health until the ring is returned. Wheeler proved the two artifacts were connected. But to perfectly translate the ancient nuances of this curse tablet, Wheeler enlisted the help of a very specific Oxford scholar of ancient languages, a man named J.R.R. Tolkien. And that leaves us with this incredible question. Just a few years after consulting on a stolen, cursed ancient ring inscribed with text, Tolkien published The Hobbit and later The Lord of the Rings. Was an accidental archaeological discovery by a farmer in a field the true inspiration for the greatest fantasy epic ever written? We may never definitively know, but it proves exactly what we've explored today. Our reality, lying just buried beneath the dirt or beneath the waves, is often just as wondrous as the myths we create. Thank you so much for learning with us today on this explainer. Stay curious and keep digging into the unknown.